This is Mentally Dope. Join us, Charmaine and Jasmine, two Black licensed therapists, as we build a bridge between mental health and Black culture. Come on, it's gonna be dope. Guess what, y'all? Welcome back. You know what time it is. You know what time it is. It's time to stay mentally dope.
Oh my gosh.
Of course, I'm Jasmine. This is Charmaine. We talk about everything at the intersection of Black culture and mental health. If you are here, we got some things to talk about, y'all. Some serious things. You know we can be serious sometimes. And
Just
we
a tinge.
can also be funny, but this is a serious topic. We're going to sprinkle in some levity, but we need to talk about it. So get whatever you need to get your popcorn, get your blanket, get your notebook, get comfortable, because we got some things to talk about. So y'all remember that movie? Back in the day. When did they make it? You don't know.
I have no idea. I think it was like early 2000s. So I made Jasmine watch this movie. And
The Secret She Kept.
Yeah.
Y'all remember Kyla Pratt doing her thing.
love me some color.
When she was playing the lawyer extraordinaire who was running for office, and then come to find out she's actually hiding the fact that she has some serious mental health struggles from everybody in her life except her family. And just seeing all that unfolds with that. So we just gonna have to talk about it.
Not only the movie, but also talking about how this looks for us as people.
Just Black people, serious mental health, which I don't even like that term either, because like mental health in general is serious. It's not a not thing, but there are spectrums to like what impacts your life a little bit and what impacts your life a lot of bit. And that can happen with anything, right? It doesn't have to be big things like schizophrenia. Like, people can be so highly anxious, they cannot function.
No, 100%.
People can be so depressed, they cannot function. So, like, it's all the thing. It's all serious, but man, oh man, we got things to talk about. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Okay. I don't know if I'm ready, but we're going to try our best. So, listen, let's first talk about we Black. Why are you laughing at me? I'm so serious right now.
Jasmine is so heavy right now. Let's go ahead. So
I'm so serious right now. I'm like, okay. So, we's Black. I don't know if you know that.
we is Black.
We is Black. And
if they did not know, they know now, because we is Black.
Because we is Black. So, there's already a stigma around mental health. There's an even bigger stigma on mental health because we is Black.
Yes.
As Black people. So, you can see throughout the movie that
It's not our fault. We blame.
Everything goes back to slavery.
Okay.
That, of course. But, like, that means there's a bigger layer of that for us. And so we struggle even harder with mental health.
Yes.
Navigating it, dealing with it, living with it. And you can very much see that in this movie.
Yes, 100%. That's what I said. Like, so the movie is actually very, very layered, but it's also very, very much true that there are a lot of individuals. What I loved about the movie, though, is that one of the things that I feel like that that creates a bigger stigma around mental health is the way that we think that people with mental health look. What people with mental health illnesses look.
And how they act.
Yes. I literally, like, there's like videos on, it's happening again. Because
I will get stuck.
Sorry,
I'll be that lady with the wig. The wig just came off.
But there are videos of people who like make fun of people with mental illnesses all the time. Or there's like this ignorance that if you have a mental illness that you are supposed to look a certain way. That no, you can't be someone with a degree, or no, you can't be someone who is like highly successful. And so in this movie, we have a Black woman who is a lawyer. And she is running for like district attorney. So, I mean, she is like highly successful. And she has a serious mental illness, which I think is like shining a very positive light on the fact that everybody don't look a certain way in order for them to have mental illness.
Absolutely. Because when we think about people who struggle with like the more difficult mental illnesses, we think about people who are homeless, unhoused.
Yes.
Right? People on the street.
Yeah.
Right? That we see and we interact with, or like acting crazy or in some like big way. Right? And I'm not a fan of the crazy word either, but like for a lack of a better word. And then also people who are in institutions, right?
Yes.
Who might be in residential or acute and need to have additional support. That's all that we think about. There's no in-between space.
Yes.
We don't think about the fact that like our neighbors, our cousins, like the people around us also can struggle with these things and live with these things.
And emphasize, and let's like place an emphasis on that it could be someone close to you. It could be someone in your family. And I think that we see this happen a lot in different situations where it is someone in your family, but we tend to have a hard time accepting that. Like, we will see the family member who is struggling, the family who is acting in potential erratic behaviors, the family who are saying things that could be like a paranoia or hallucination, and we don't want to admit it. So therefore, we try to find, oh, she's just stressed. She's just having a bad day. Why are you acting like this? It's like, it isn't a thing, because we don't want to deal with whether it's stigma, whether it's shame, whether it's embarrassment, whatever it is,
all of it,
about this person that's in our family. And we see this in the movie because Kyla's character, Tia, is going through this, and the mom is working double, triple overtime to keep her daughter's story under wrap because she's too embarrassed for anybody to find out. I mean, mom also has levels of trauma behind that because mother's grandfather struggled in the same way.
Her dad.
Yes. Her dad struggled in the same way. Her brother struggles in the same way. And then her husband left her because he found out that their daughter struggled in the same way. So she does have levels of trauma. So the way that she is learning to survive is to like try to like keep her daughter as classified as possible. But of course, she's pushing down some
classified information.
She's passing down some very, very negative things to her daughter in the process.
Well, like putting her thumb on it, right? Like, if I can have control over her, then it'll be okay.
Yes.
I can make sure she doesn't get in trouble. Whatever happened to my dad doesn't happen to her. That whole thing, which we're going to talk about some family stuff. But I kind of want to go back to what you said, because when I am doing intakes, I learned a long time ago, and I'm sure you have your own language around this too, that when you're asking, when we do intakes, that means when somebody comes for a first session and we're getting all of the additional information, we have to take a history of their family. Mm-hmm. So when you are meeting with Black and brown people, how do you ask that question? Because I can tell you what I'm not asking is, do you have any history of schizophrenia in your family? Because they're not going to give me an answer to that question, because they're going to say, no, absolutely not. I don't get it. Yeah. And I would say, okay, so do you have any people that, like, you think struggle with any mental health issues in your family? Yes. And they'll be like, well, I got one cousin that does this. Mm-hmm. Or like, my grandma, she, and this is the language they would use, she real crazy. Like, she real crazy. And I'd be like, okay, like, what does that mean? What does that look like? Because again, we have our own words for this, but we're not going to go out of our way to be like, oh yeah, well they've diagnosed this, they're diagnosed that. Listen, we lucky grandma even ever got a diagnosis, let alone anything else, medication for it. Like, yeah. Because in our communities we don't have all that stuff, it's hard to track or quantify who has what and what's being passed down, what's genetic, all this other stuff. So you always got to have a different language because we don't talk about this.
Yeah. So for me too, there is like that level of ignorance of even understanding like what it looks like. So I do think that is a thing too. That's another reason why we talk about the importance of us being able to have the cultural aspect when it comes to mental health, because it is important for us to be able to explain these terms in ways that make them digestible and understandable. Like, there are a lot of times, especially like my clients will come in and I'll ask them, like, do you have like trauma or depression or whatever? And they're like, no. But if I explain what it actually looks like, and how it looks like to them, they're like, oh, well, yeah, I struggle with that. So it's like being able to make sure that you're in spaces to where things can be broken down to you in ways that you understand, so that you're not continuing on passing along like incorrect information. Mm-hmm.
Or they're coming to find a new diagnosis for them and they're like, oh yeah, well your grandpa was like that. Actually, I never told you that, but your grandpa was a lot like that. Having that information could have helped, right? Could have helped them in school, could have helped them get the resources that they need, the accommodations that they needed so that they could live a full life. But now, like, stuff's hit the fan because we're not just now figuring out what this is, and don't nobody want to look at it, don't nobody want to address it, and then we have to deal with the fallout of that. Oh, she's all right, she's just stressed, but like, she also has a clinical condition, friend, that can be treated.
Yes, but that's what we see though. We see that the mom was trying to control the situation by also even lying to the child. The child thought that her grandfather was murdered, not to find out that he committed suicide.
Yeah, but there's a lot of reasons why that's not smart. Because if your child struggles with being paranoid, why would you tell them that their family member was murdered when they weren't? They're going to be even more paranoid about that.
Yeah,
Aren't
but she
they?
thought that as long as she was not stressed out, that she'd be able to control the situation.
It doesn't add a layer of stress to someone if they're dealing with a death and you find out they were murdered. That's another level of stress.
I'm not saying that makes sense.
I know you do, but I'm just saying there was like, no, the stigma is so big, it clouds your ability to even think rationally about the situation when y'all could just talk about it.
Understood. But I think that, and I mean, we've seen, it's not my place to question anybody's parenting in this sense, but
I mean, these aren't real people that I know about.
But I have seen a lot of people who think that by controlling the narrative that they're protecting their kids. And sometimes that's not always true. But
yeah, but that, okay, but you're saying two different things there, I think. What we're also saying is lying to someone is not the same as telling them what they are able to developmentally process.
Yes.
Right? Does that make sense?
No,
right?
100%.
Because people struggle with like, oh, so-and-so died. I don't know how to tell my kid. So we're just not going to tell them. Or they left. They went on a trip. They're not coming back. Dad, like all of this stuff that is not true. And it is more harmful to people in your family to lie, to tell a non-truth. Oh, that's your daddy. That's not your daddy. Whatever. Your daddy's actually Michael Jordan and he's coming to see us when you get older, whatever. Than to say, whatever age they are developmentally, this is actually what the truth is.
But I think the hard part is that what you're touching on is for a lot of people, there takes a level of emotional maturity, but also emotional vulnerability. For a lot of people, especially parents, when they're walking around with shame or embarrassment for either their own past or their own stories, I don't want to own that. And what I don't want to do is look into the eyes of my child, this person who may look at me like I'm something different, and tell them, no, that ain't your daddy. Because now how you gonna look at me? And I can't deal with that. So therefore I'm gonna lie to you and tell you that it is Michael Jordan. And he will be here to see us in 2 years.
And then when 2 years come, then what we gonna do? Like, no, I totally get it.
Yes, 100%. But I do think that that's what happens is that...
No, I totally agree. But then that leads us to the other point, which is even admitting stuff to yourself is hard. Like, if you can admit to yourself what the truth is. And again, the mom had a hard time even admitting the fact that people in her family did struggle with mental health issues, did have these deficits, right? Like, her uncle didn't have to live with her. He was fully functional. I mean, her brother did not have to live with her. He could have lived on his own, right? Because she struggled so much with that.
Stories about him.
She lied to people
that he had a disability.
Yes, but doing all of that because she doesn't want to admit to herself, this is the way the people around me look, this is the way my family looks, this is what's going on in my family. So she also lies to her kid about it. Then can't admit to herself that she's having these problems because it's too much, they don't exist. Something's not actually wrong with me, I'm not crazy. Or even the narrative that my dad's not here, he left because it was all too much, right? And well, that's a whole nother thing we can talk about if that is what happened or didn't happen.
Yeah.
But that's a big part of it. Just not being able to admit to yourself something's happening. It often comes a lot from family, like outside influence too. Because people will judge me, people will reject me, which was a big thing that Tia, that was her name, went through because I know names. So that's one of the things that she went through. Just like, people are going to leave me if they know this about me. I am so ashamed of that this is me that I don't want people to leave me, so I'm not going to tell them. And I'm not even going to tell myself that this is what's wrong with me.
But I wonder, like, I feel like that her mother also created or helped create that narrative without even knowing that she was creating it. Because
it felt very purposeful, crafted to me.
I think and I don't know. I've dealt with several clients of mine who don't realize that they are pushing the narrative that my love comes with conditions without realizing that they're pushing the narrative that my love comes with conditions. So she was literally telling her, this is not what you're going through. This is not what's happening to her. So now you have this child and now adult woman who knows that this is what's happening to me. But my mother, the one person in my corner, is saying that's not what's happening to you. So you're telling me that you don't see all of me. You don't want to see all of me. You don't accept all of me. That part of you is not actually a thing.
No, but that part of you is wrong.
Yes.
So much so that we're going to lie about it. We're going to keep it in secret.
Yes.
We're never going to act like it's a real thing.
So what do I learn about myself?
That part of me is wrong.
Yes.
And people won't accept that. My own mom won't even accept it or talk with me about it. Why would I accept it? Why would I be able to tell other people about this? Right? It perpetuates that whole thing. And like you said, that doesn't just happen with mental illness. It happens with a lot of stuff.
Yes.
A lot of stuff in a lot of families. So like that's another layer.
Yeah.
That's another big layer.
But I think that so that led to what we said earlier of Tia feeling like that she could not admit her own symptoms because there's the embarrassment and the shame and all the things around it and the fear that no one's going to accept me, no one's going to love me, everyone's going to think that something's wrong with me. And we see that a lot within us. Like most people don't just broadcast, I have a serious mental illness.
Yes, that's true. Or any for that fact. I mean, I feel like now it's cooler than it was back in the day, but like a lot of people really ain't going out of their way to be like, ooh, y'all, I got depression. Y'all want to see my depression meds today? Like, listen, get on TikTok. It's a different world over there. But most people on day to day, because being vulnerable over the internet is not the same as being vulnerable in person in real life. That's all I'm going to say. And in community, we're just going to put that out there. So, yeah, a lot of people don't volunteer any of that.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm depressed today. I didn't take a shower today. They ain't volunteering that information because there's so much around it.
And then I think especially when you go deeper, like Jasmine said, not saying that anything is less serious or more serious, but like people may say I have anxiety or I have depression. Most people are not walking around saying I have bipolar disorder because I think that there's also like even more of a stigma that certain mental illnesses are scary. That is like, and I'm gonna be honest, even in the mental health field,
let's keep it a stack for sure.
Even in our field, there are mental health therapists who will run if they're like, hey, this person just called for a session and they're saying that they have like BPD, and they're like, oh, well, I'm not gonna see them because we're even taught to be terrified of these people, and it's not fair.
And there's a stigma in the way that we talk about it and we teach people about it, and there's so much, guys. There's so much. And that is also why you need a therapist that looks like you and is embodied in this work. That's two different things, right?
100%.
Somebody who looks like you and it also is able to embody that all of this is not necessarily made for us, and we're trying to use this to help you, but that is only one way to help you.
Yes.
Right? Because like we have mixed feelings about diagnoses and all these other things. We're not going to get into that today, but it is just can be really complicated. And so you need someone who, above all else, sees you. That's really what matters.
And
the
sees
rest
you.
Will follow, yes. But they need to see you and the person in front of them.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And so we also see in the movie, so because Tia is struggling with the avoidance and the fears that come along with that, she avoids by trying to do anything to get around it. And her anything to get around it seems to be extreme behaviors. So she's with her boyfriend that she's been with for 2 years, and they're like going back and forth. Like it's a little.
We need to talk about their relationship.
Yeah,
we have to.
It's special. And clearly he noticed a lot of signs with her, but he just kept saying that he thought that she was quirky and stressed. Those were the words he said. He said he thought that she was quirky and that she was stressed out a lot.
Then why rush? You can notice things about your partner. Why move fast then if you notice something?
Or ask some more detailed questions, something like that. But that they had been together for 2 years. So she has a semi episode in front of him for a little while. She feels herself getting wound up a little bit too much, a little too much pressure, and
from the very beginning, we see that she is under a lot of stress.
100%.
She is running her own practice and she is running for office at the same time. Like it's crowdsourced. She don't come from a whole bunch of money. She is doing all of it on her own. So she, from the beginning, is very stressed. The very first scene that we see, listen, y'all, this on Tubi, and it didn't start on Tubi, but I think this was meant to be a Tubi movie, she is at a, what is it called, a press conference, and he proposes to her in the middle of the press conference.
And then tells her, I'm doing this because I've asked you 2 times before, and you keep telling me no, so I'm hoping that you won't embarrass me in front of everybody. It's like, bam. Okay. I'm not gonna go there. We're gonna save that for later.
But all of that, so she's doing all of that, just got proposed to in public, felt pressure to say yes. Now we're planning a wedding and doing this whole thing and holding the secret too. She is very, very stressed.
But she says that she initially does not plan on getting married. She just said yes so that she would not embarrass them, and they were on TV. So they're talking, they're out, and she has a pressured moment where she's feeling like, her symptoms are raising up, and in order to avoid it and for him to not find out, she's like, let's get married right now. let's just like go right now and get married. Mm-hmm. Then we see it happen again in the movie. She starts to flare up again. He's like, hey, what's going on with you? And she's like, I'm pregnant. He's like, really? She's like, yeah, it's my hormones. My hormones are causing all these issues. She does not want to admit to him what's going on with him. So therefore she's like doing like grandiose things to avoid, which is also very, very manipulative to this man, mm-hmm. that you married him under these pretenses. You lied to him and told him that you were pregnant under these pretenses because by any means necessary. We literally have these things in our bodies that are like, I'm never gonna let this happen again. So it's like, by any means necessary, let's try to like shut this down and make sure that the thing that I'm scared of happening does not happen.
I don't know about y'all, but my firefighters have a gun, and that's always what happens. They coerce me. That's who they coerce first before they start acting crazy. But anyway, like totally what you're saying is that that is passed down, because at one point she calls her mom and she's like, Mom, what do I do? And she said, don't say anything. Just act like it never happened. I was like, what? What kind of strategy? Why are you telling your child the way to cope with somebody holding you accountable is that don't do anything? Like,
but then mom also says blame it on hormones. Now, she did go a step farther because, mama said hormones. You could have easily said it was your period or whatever. This woman said I'm pregnant. Mm-hmm. Okay, whatever. But yes.
What's going to happen? Well, we're just going to say that I lost the baby and we'll try again at it.
Yeah, she had a full plan. And then she even went further to say, I'm going to tell him that I can't have kids. And then after that, we'll adopt and all this. And I was just like, she had a full plan.
That's a lot to also just be like, I'm under a lot of stress. I got some mental health struggles. Mm-hmm. But again, if that's the world you come from, we also say we do anything that we have to do in order to not share this thing about us.
100%. But also, like you said, we learn how to cope initially, most times from our family. Mm-hmm. We do not always realize that, but a lot of the ways, I would say that we each have tools in our toolbox, and a lot of those initial tools come from the people around us. I also give this little tidbit too. When parents get mad at their kids for not having other tools in their toolbox, and I'm like, what tools did you give them? I'm just saying. Don't get mad at your child for lashing out and flipping out every time that something doesn't go their way when you didn't give them any other tools to figure out how to deal with that. But that's just me.
Which, a lot of parents don't know themselves, which yes. I get that. But I think we see it a lot with anger. That's a really easy one to be like, oh, how do you get angry? Well, what did your parents do? But I think also it's twofold, right? Like, we get our coping skills from our family because they teach us that, but that doesn't mean we always do what they do. That might
yes.
mean we react to what they do,
yes.
right? Like, if you have a family member who's like big and loud when they get angry, perhaps your anger looks more shut down.
Yeah, shuts down.
Because that was too much and too big, mm-hmm. right? Like, or the same thing can happen. You could also be loud and angry and mimic that, but it's usually in reaction to whatever your family has taught you about whatever the emotion is.
Mm-hmm. And so in this situation, she is being taught avoidance.
Yeah, and she's doing it just the same way that her mom does. Yeah. Evade accountability, even if they confront you with the truth. Oh my gosh, the first time when he came to her and he was like, listen, what's going on? I talked to your mom, and it was a little scary. She looked up and she was like, did you have a good day? I was like, oh no, we're going down the wrong path. Because for him to say all of that and want answers, and for her to just be like, I'm going to bed early, I hope you have a good night. Mm-hmm. We're in deep, because you're not even looking at the problem. Mm-mm. And we're just not going to talk about it.
I'm going to treat you like something's wrong with you
for assuming this or thinking this about me,
yeah.
which is gaslighting, the
yes.
actual true definition of gaslighting.
Yes. And then I'm going to distract you with something else. Have you guys ever had someone when you're talking to them about something and they distract you with something else? Listen, this happens to me every now and then.
Oh, it's like how often?
No, every now and then. If I'm like in like a really serious rant and then someone's like, are you hungry? Yes, I am. And I have just like lost full train of thought. Because now we're going somewhere else. We do this some other ways too. There's a thing that people can do sometimes when someone's talking to them and they're like, you want to have sex? Because like that's a way to distract mm-hmm. from the situation. Mm-hmm.
Shout out to the SZA video. Was it SZA? Yep. I hate you. Go ahead and look at them, because it's definitely can be a tactic.
Yes, I want to divert from the problem. We're just gonna go around this and do something else, and we're gonna be fine. Let's go on vacation. We're just so stressed out right now. Let's just go. Let's have a date.
It'll all just go away. We just gotta kind of wait it out, It'll all just disappear.
Yeah.
But will it?
No.
Hey guys, we're just gonna interrupt for a second just to remind you that despite us being two dope Black therapists, we are not your dope Black therapists. Therefore, this does not replace your connection in a relationship with a licensed mental health therapist, right? We are only sharing educational information that you can do what you want with. But we are not advising you specifically on your individual needs. So, of course, as always, go see a mental health professional that's in your local state, in your local area to get what you need. Okay.
Hey guys, it's Charmaine, and I always tell y'all to like, comment, and subscribe, but don't forget, we are not just on YouTube. We are on all podcast platforms. If you want to listen to us that way, we also are on the socials, so check us out on Instagram and on TikTok. We're also on Facebook. You can see all of our cool content on social media. Follow us there too, guys.
So I also think avoidance is a good way that you can tell how somebody is coping or not coping with the situation they're in, right? Like mental health, right? Because for some people, that's an actual trigger, right? The more that you start avoiding, like if you ever have made a safety plan with your therapist, one of the things you look for is like, what are some signs to know that you're going down the wrong path? And I feel like for some people, it is avoidance. When I start avoiding everything, oh, that's happening. Oh, I'm not doing very well. I'm not sleeping very well. That is a red flag for some people that like, oh, I'm not in a good mental space. And you can tell twofold. She did that with other people. She also did that with herself. She saw stuff happening. Things were happening inside of her. She knew she was having an episode, but she was just like, gonna pretend like it's not happening for herself, not even anyone else.
Yeah. If I can just like act like it's not there, then it won't be there.
Yeah. I think that's also how you get to the people who like lie to you, and it's a lie clearly, but they believe the lie. Even
and
though
then they will argue you about the lie.
Yeah, but the issue is they don't want to admit the truth to themselves. So they really can believe that it's a lie somewhere in them. Somewhere. So again, avoidance is definitely, can be a symptom. It's not the one for everyone. But go ahead.
We also see too that like, so we're talking about her mental illness and talking about how mental illnesses can look different in different people and also look different in different cultures. We talked about this also too in our anxiety video about how different things like different mental health symptoms can look different in different individuals and how I have a love-hate relationship with our DSM, but that's a different thing. But if you look up the list of symptoms for most diagnoses, every single symptom may not be how someone presents. But being able to look at like how certain symptoms will show up in certain people and certain symptoms will not show up in certain people.
And there's no like real rhyme or reason in how that works. So anyway, that's a whole thing. But let me break it down for you real quick. I wish I had my glasses because I feel like this is a glasses moment. So as we talk about the DSM, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, is the whole big manual in a nice little purple book that tells us all the mental health diagnoses in the world of living that ever exist, right? Essentially, people get together, they decide what needs to be a diagnosis and what doesn't, and they give us all this criteria for these diagnoses, right? And so in this movie, I don't think we actually have said this, she's supposed to have schizoaffective disorder, right? Which is under the umbrella of things like schizophrenia. And so like any diagnosis, there is such a wide spectrum of what this can look like, right? People who this is exactly what Charmaine just said. People who are anxious might have, the way that we have to do it, let me explain it this way, is that what it happens is the DSM gives you like 10 different symptoms. And they say in order for this person to have this disorder, they need to have 3 of 10 or 5 of 10 or 7 of 15 or whatever, right? And so that means one person can only ever have 3 symptoms and never have any others. One person can have all 10 symptoms every so often, once in a while, right? And so they look wildly different. So someone who might be able to function with one thing really, really well, and someone who may have less, like fewer symptoms, but more intense symptoms, may not be able to function at all. It looks so very different. So there's no way a lot of times to just look at someone and say, this is what they're going through. This is what's happening with them. Oh, they have this diagnosis and they have it. So they should experience it the same way. They should be able to get up and do the same things. They should be able to get up and have the resources for the same. There's no way, because it all looks so very different.
Yeah.
And I think this is the thing too, is when we assume that someone with schizophrenia or something like schizophrenia comes up, that they should look like, I don't know, a guy off the street. Or the unhoused guy that is like by your house.
Yeah.
That like appears like he's talking to himself or interacting with somebody that you can't see. That it has to look like that. And it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's different for everybody.
Yeah, 100%. And we see that one of the things that Tia potentially had and did not know that she had, but what she needed was a positive support system. And that's what anyone with a mental illness needs. Needs a positive support system. You need people around you who are going to be supportive. People around you who are going to research and not just go off of their own ignorance or their own thoughts, that are actually going to try to learn you and understand you. Like Desmond said, not just going off of a criteria and how it should be, and showing up to your house trying to give you hope for something that you aren't even like dealing with. Like, learn me, learn what I need, and then be a positive support system.
Yes. And also knowing that two people can have the same things going on, and one be disturbed by some part of it the other person doesn't even care about. You know what I'm saying? Like when people are like, oh, that doesn't even bother me. That doesn't even impact my life. I don't care. And the other people are like, this is terrible. I don't ever want this. That's why you need something and someone nuanced. And that doesn't even just mean a therapist. That means people in your life.
Yeah.
Like the big thing that was an issue in this movie and in real life is that people think for some reason that we should not listen to people who are not well, like who are struggling or are having a mental health episode, that we just shouldn't listen to them. We should make decisions for them.
100%.
And it's terrible. Like, I feel like we need to listen to them even more, because people will tell you what they need. They will show you, they will express that, right? It might not always be with words, but they will tell you what they need. It is not the time to say, oh, we're just not listening to them. We're just going to make decisions for them, because that also makes people act even more erratically. When they start not being able to control things or not being treated like a real human person, it becomes bigger and worse. We need to listen to people who are in crisis. That's it.
Yeah, and once again, learn them so you can also learn like what that looks like, what that sounds like, even if it is moments where like I'm not quite sure about this. Okay, but like still like pay attention.
Yeah. Which I think everybody was so caught up in trying to prevent stuff from happening that they saw the signs. They saw that she was going down the track and she was going to have another episode, and they were so busy trying to cover it up, they couldn't actually do what they needed to do.
Yeah.
Which at first her mom's advice wasn't bad. She was just like, babe, you know what's going on, take your meds. Which we don't have to talk about that too, because that's not how meds work. But yes.
But I think that is the hard part, because that was even the thing too, that the mom, okay, here's my thing. Meds and therapy kind of go hand in hand. And the mom continued to just treat her like the meds were going to be the take-all. We're not going to discuss it. We're not going to deal with it. Just like take your meds and everything will be okay. And one of the things that she asked her mom and her psychiatrist is, do you see me? Do you know what the meds do to me? Do you know how the meds make me feel? Do you ask me any questions, or do you keep telling me, take the meds? And I think that there is once again, going back to being able to have those conversations, because there is also that thing there that understood the meds were 100% needed and should have been taken. But there is also being able to have those open dialogue questions of, why aren't you taking the meds? What are the meds doing to you? What are some of the side effects or symptoms of the medication that you're on? All of those things as well.
It's
layered.
Again, no, it's layered, but I think that goes back to what you said. You have to have someone that sees you so that you can deal with this problem. Because if you have someone who doesn't see you, you will not be as successful, truly, because you won't be taking your meds, right? Because, well, I told the doctor this happens, they don't listen to me, so I'm not taking that anymore, right? That's what I see a lot coming to my office. Yeah, but it had this side effect, and the doctor said there was nothing that they can do or nothing that they want to do.
Or that I was making it up. I've heard that one before, too.
Oh, yeah, that too.
I'm telling the doctor
that can't be happening. That doesn't happen on this medication.
That doesn't happen on this medication. So
yeah, that's actually not a side effect. But how do you, they didn't test me.
Yeah.
So how do we know? I went in the clinical trial.
So if I'm telling you that this was happening to me before, but now it is on this medication, like.
Exactly. And that is why we need people to listen, because medication is also very complicated. And please don't hear what you think you want to hear and then go somewhere. Because I think because we are always saying, especially Black therapists and psychiatrists, medication is complicated. We need to be intentional when we do that. People are like, well, that's why I just don't do it. That's why I won't touch it. But that's not necessarily what we're saying. Medication helps a lot of people.
100%.
And it's more important that you get someone who is willing to listen to you so that you can do that well. Because, again, there's no point. A big issue is that people who aren't taking their medication that need it, it deteriorates their functioning. They cannot do anything, or they can't continue to do the things they want to do, which is hold a job, have a house, be with their family, all of the things that we also want them to do because they don't feel listened to and heard. And then they have to do all of these other things to get everything else back online because they cannot function like they did before.
100%.
Which again, that was Tia's problem, that if she was able to take the medication consistently, she would have had less of intensity of the episodes. It wouldn't have been as big. She would have been able to function. But like you said, that doesn't mean it would have been solved.
Yeah.
She still would have had a diagnosis with the medication.
But like you said, though, that maybe her meds needed to be adjusted, or someone needed to actually listen to her, because she was also saying that when she was on the meds that she couldn't focus. It
made her tired.
Yeah,
it made her sleep all day.
That she was sluggish, and that for someone who is a lawyer and trying to run a campaign, I can't be in my office dazed out.
Right.
So therefore, I stopped taking the med because no one's listening to me and just keep telling me that the med is liking what I need, and I'm telling you that the med is not working for what I need. So it's like that same.
And that is to say, there's always more than one medication for whatever you're going through.
Or like I said, an adjustment or something.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, there's so many things. Again, meds, the way that they used to look, the way that we were told that they used to look, does not look the way that they look now. They are different. That doesn't mean there's not a lot of work to do. We still got work to do. But they look very, very different. And so this is why you need a support team, because it's not just about the therapist or the psychiatrist. If you have a good one, the psychiatrist will work with the therapist. And you will also create a plan for how to make this work.
Yeah.
There's a lady that I will link down at the bottom. She's on Instagram. She's living with schizophrenia. It's schizophrenia.nyc. But one thing that she talks about is what she does when she has a hallucination, right? What she does when she is responding to stuff that other people can't see is she has a plan for it. She has to remind herself it's not real. She records herself so she can look back and say, oh, nothing was there. That was me. That wasn't my environment, right? That kind of stuff. And she's on medication. She's taking her medication, according to her. So if you're doing all the things right, you still need a plan and support and the people around you to be like, hey, is that hey, I'm here right now. Let me co-regulate with you. Or hey, let me anchor you. Or no, I don't see that thing. Right? People who get it and you can understand to have a plan, because it's not just medication. It don't matter what you're doing and what it is. Medication is not the only thing that's going to solve the problem.
100%.
Sorry, unless it is purely medical. And even if it is purely medical, look, I don't have a solution. Therapy is the answer to everything. I don't know what to tell you. That's my answer. But truly, you need a system, not just a therapist, not just a psychiatrist, people who get it, a community, whether that's people who all have the same diagnosis as you or similar, or your own family or your chosen family. You need something. It's got to happen. Yeah. Recovery is not possible without it.
100%. 100%.
As we roll on to the next, I think it's important to talk about, too, the toll that mental health takes on people's, self-esteem. Because I know we talked about her family stuff and how that came to be, but you can also tell, and I see this a lot with people who have mental health struggles, that, they see themselves differently because they have this struggle.
Yeah, 100%.
They tell themselves about things they can or can't do because they have a struggle. And it's really hard to see in this movie and just in general. It's a sad thing to see, because I think they get it from somewhere too, right? You watch the right movie, the movie's like, oh, you can't do that.
Yeah. And it starts to become a defining factor.
Absolutely. And then you make decisions based off of that information, right? I see myself this way. And so as I go through the world, that also means... yeah, it's actually not going to do what I want it to do, so I'm not even going to try.
Or we use it sometimes as crutches.
Yeah, well, I can't do it. This is just the way that I am.
Yes.
And it's like all throughout the movie, every decision she was making, she was saying, he's going to leave if he finds out. So I need to do everything I can to make sure he doesn't find out. There was a point where he did find out, and she was like, okay, now you have to go.
Get out.
You're kicking him out, but you don't want him to leave.
But it was
he
self-sabotage of like, I'm going to self-fulfill this.
Yeah, but because in her mind, there was no way those two things could happen. He can't know that I have something wrong with me and stay.
1 + 1 = 2, and that's like messing it up.
So now he knows, so he can't stay because he won't stay, right? And there's just no way for that to happen. And I feel like that happens. Listen, that happens on a lower level with us all the time.
Yeah.
But even more so for people who have just struggles, mental health struggles of just like, I can't reveal this to people because they're scared. They'll run away. They won't get it. All this other stuff, and it's hard to see.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So if you're working with someone or you struggle with this, do your own work around the self-esteem piece, because there's not anything that negotiates your worth. It stands solid. It doesn't go up or down with your mental health diagnosis or not. Yeah.
And also being able to support the people around you as well.
Absolutely. When I was in school, they had a speaker come and talk to us, and she was a lawyer, actually, which is kind of ironic. And she said she lived with bipolar, and she had accomplished all these amazing things and did all these things. And they showed her to us and had her come speak to us so that we could see what it actually can look like if you're able.
Yeah.
Right? Because some people are able to do that. Some people just aren't, and that's fine. But like, it doesn't always look the way that we think it looks. And it helps to have a role model. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
But that's the big thing. It's really internal, the thing that holds you back. That's my overview.
I like that.
I kind of went on a tangent, but I'm back now.
That's fine. Do you have more?
Well, we talked about the family, but I think we need to talk about overarching issues with the family, which is one thing that I think the movie did get right, is that mental health issues are super genetic. That doesn't mean that all the time, every time it's going to get passed down, but they are highly genetic. Right.
Which goes back to what we were saying earlier about like knowing as much as possible.
Yes, absolutely. And that also, what we saw in the family thing was not even just the mental health issues. It was just family dysfunction that was also passed down. Right? Like, because they had never dealt with the family dysfunction, that was still showing up in the mental health things, which I feel like that happens a lot. There's a lot of people who struggle with mental health things and actually have a diagnosis. And on top of that, their family is dysfunctional. And so that makes everything else like more complicated.
Yeah.
And this dysfunction is like, they don't talk to each other. They don't communicate. They treat each other bad. Like all of these types of things. And we see that like played out the whole time of just, it got more complicated than it needed to be.
Oh, 100%.
And shout out to Uncle Leo. I thought he was being messy at first, but he actually was being very helpful. The whole time he's telling his sister, like, tell her the truth. Hey, just be no nonsense. You don't have to hide it. You don't have to do all of this. You're a full person, even with this diagnosis. And didn't nobody listen.
Yeah, she wasn't ready to listen to that.
No. So there was a lot. And the family, the ignorance of the family. That was the thing that was hard. Beverly, the sister-in-law, I did not like the words that she was saying sometimes of just like, well, women are just crazy sometimes, you know? That's not help. Who's that helpful for? Who's that helpful? And then Leo was saying, oh, no, you think that I'm actually weak because I have this diagnosis. You think that I can't control myself enough.
But that
but people really believe that, too.
And that's a lot of times it's a unconscious bias, and sometimes it actually is a conscious bias that people just believe that people with certain things are less than or weaker.
Yes. And that if you're able, like if you have symptoms and other people can see the fact that you have symptoms, then you're just not controlling yourself well enough and you need to do better. It's not how it works, homie.
Yeah.
Not how it works. But they were believing that. And so here we are with a person who doesn't believe that she can have anything or do anything, even though she was very well accomplished. That's interesting that she could do that in her professional life, but personally, no way.
100%.
Interesting. What else? What is she thinking?
Do you have questions that need answers?
Always. You have to know. We have questions that need answers.
We always have questions that need answers, guys.
So like I said, this is a Tubi movie
like this, you guys
wrapped in a Lifetime basket, okay?
Let me tell you to my first question that needs answers. So there's a scene in the movie where she runs into a guy who was running against her in the campaign, and she believes that this man is the man who murdered her grandfather. And he sends a champagne bottle over to her table for her and her husband at the time.
That just got so out of control.
And she has a moment in an episode at the restaurant. I'm telling you, the champagne bottle was empty. Like, it looked empty.
You know this.
Like, she's picking it up, and she's throwing all this stuff, and it's an empty bottle. And then she throws it, and it shatters, and champagne goes everywhere. And I'm just like... There are those moments when, like, you know, on, like, TikTok, when it be like, Tubi don't realize that you can, like, see like, you know, the cameraman in the glasses, and you be like, did y'all not see what I saw? Okay, but anywho, go ahead.
Well, if we're going to talk about Tubi. So... Kyla's hair, I'm here for it. I think her hair actually looked good.
Oh yeah, amazing.
Her mama.
I don't know why they did Khalida like that with that wig.
And that's not right what they did to her. And that's all I have to say about it. It's not right. Everybody else had their natural hair. And of course, Kyla had had an install.
I don't know if
I think she had some leave out.
Look like, you know, older or what, but it just, I don't know.
So the question is, why'd I put that wig on?
Yes. I don't know. Maybe they were like a little like desensitized based on past episodes. But at some point, if you have not watched the movie, hopefully that you have by this point. At some point, she leaves a suicide note, and she like leaves to actually like go commit suicide. I don't feel like anybody was like frantic about it. She comes called, and she was just like, she's missing. And he shows up, and he's like, she left a note. Like, everyone's just like, so calm. And I don't know. I mean, everybody could, like, you know, react differently. But in my mind, I was just like, they are way too calm in this moment.
Mom did get upset at one point. She was just like, I need to find my baby. But then before that, everybody was just like, oh no, there's a problem.
Yeah. Oh dear.
Give me 5 minutes and I'll address it. So that was a little bit weird.
Let me change my clothes.
So again, I said we need to talk about their relationship. Lance and Tia. What was going on with Lance? That he not only missed every red flag, he refused to see them because his sister was in his ear every single time of just like, don't you think y'all should talk about that before y'all got married? You know that her uncle has mental illness. You know her grandpa had mental illness. You didn't want to figure that out. Y'all got married for 5 minutes and now you're just asking questions about her family history?
But I do think that once again that we said the same thing, that some of her learning and coping came from her family. Lance does say that his parents died at a young age, so all he has is...
Both of his parents died. He said they've been dead 15 years.
So all he had growing up was his older sister, and if that's the person telling you the things that it's in your ear,
okay, but she was making a lot of sense though.
But why wasn't he listening? Was also the one who just said the women are crazy sometimes. So he believed that. She just quirky.
Fair enough. And he didn't get mad at her about anything. She would just be like, "Oh, you think that's okay?" He'd be like, "Yes, she's just tired." And I'd be like, "Interesting," because I would have a lot to say. Yeah. So they just had a lot. His manipulation to be like, "I want to make sure you say yes, so I'm going to do it in public." Oh, don't do that, guy. Or for her to, in the answers that she was giving him, he was like, okay, yeah, that's a good answer. Sir, we was just tripping about getting married, and now we're excited. We want to get married tomorrow? Mm-hmm. We didn't even want to get married, and now you're saying tomorrow. But let's do it this weekend. Sway. Mm-hmm. And none of you wants to evaluate that and be like, is this a good idea? What changed with you, Sally?
He said, let me go ahead and jump on before you change your mind.
That's a problem. Why would she go change her mind? She don't want to marry you.
I mean, I've had my moments, though, when I've asked somebody something a whole bunch of times. I remember when I wanted my puppy, I asked my husband a lot, and he kept telling me no. And then the one day he got upset, and he was like, yes, baby, let's go. And I was like, okay. And I hopped in the car before he changed his mind. Let's go. Let's go get my dog.
But that is the thing that you wanted,
but he wanted to get married. So therefore, he jumped whenever she said, yes, finally. I'm going to take it while you still believe it. Is that healthy? No. But I'm just saying.
And we're moving on. I can't do it. Oh, no. I'm sorry. She said stress does crazy things to women. And I just didn't understand why we had to say that. So there was a scene, where the mom slaps her husband. Mm-hmm. And I just this is another red flag for him, because if somebody smiles like that, to you right before they open hand.
We discussed this, and baby
you got
boy,
a problem.
And baby boy, when the man tapped his head before he went, okay, so
that's what I'm saying. If somebody is telling you in all their ways, hey, I'm not raptitis, you just gonna sit there and stay?
But my thing was the audacity of it. Why did you get so close to her face? Listen, if I'm upset with you and the fact that you have the audacity to come that close to my face,
that's what I'm doing.
You want me to slap you.
Listen, when we take all of our training sessions, when you're with an upset person, you increase space, okay? You remove yourself from that. You get at a reaching distance so they can't swipe at you.
But this man stepped in her face.
Mm-hmm. And then she smiled. He said something real out the way. She smiled. I'm done. I'm gone. I'm not. I said something crazy and you smiling at me. We're done because I already know you finna tear it up. And she just open hand slapped him. Sir, you're not concerned about your own life. And I can tell you, there's another reason why he's not concerned about his own life, but we're going to get to that. Go ahead.
I'm done. Go ahead.
Why did they say that she was diagnosed at 10 years old?
Yeah, that caught me off guard too. Well, no, he said that she started showing symptoms around 10.
And then she got diagnosed quickly after. So around that time, she got diagnosed. Let me tell you what the movie got wrong. Nobody's diagnosing any child with schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder. Okay? Because we can't, per the DSM, we can't. So if that's happening, you probably need to go figure out what's going on there. All I wrote is that wig, that wig, that wig. I just needed to say it one more time. So what was this family session about? Did you see that family session? When they finally had that family session? I guess it was a family session. I don't know.
I thought that she just like dragged her to the psychiatrist to get her meds. I don't think that was like a family session.
But it kind of was.
They tried to like gang up on her to get her to take her meds, and then she was like, "No, how about I go this way?" and be like, "No, y'all are the problem."
Okay, but in the session, did Mom had her back? It was so very strange.
Yeah, she was like sitting in one seat, and it was.
And that's why I was like, is somebody being held hostage here? Like, these two were talking, and she just had her back to them. And she was like, you guys aren't listening to me. I'm like, what is... Never in my life. Never in my life. And did she low-key bully her psychiatrist? She did.
Yeah.
She bullied her. No, that's not the psychiatrist you need at all. She was just like, I don't want to take the meds. The psychiatrist was like, oh, okay, I get it. You really need to take the meds. She's like, and she said, I don't want to take the meds. They do something wrong with me, but give me the pills.
Yes, give me the pills just in case. And she was like, that's not how it works. Give me the pills.
And the lady was like, I don't want to do that. And then she said, and she was like, okay, absolutely not, ma'am. She just bullied that lady. Go on, take the degree. Go on, take the degree. Take the license. There was at one point where he called his wife misshapen when he was talking to Leo, Uncle Leo, who was trying to save the day, but they would not let him be great. He was trying to give some kind of beautiful metaphor. She's a work of art. He was talking to her dad.
Yeah.
We got to talk about her dad. Here's a beautiful work of art and all of this, but she might be misshapen, but she's still art. And I was like, I hope she don't hear what you had to say.
He was trying.
Who was she talking to at the end when they was having a press conference? But it wasn't a press conference. Who were they talking to? She just stood up and said...
The media?
Nobody was there. There were no cameras, nothing. This is my issue. This is why I cannot watch Tubi movies to this day. Because I got questions. I got continuity questions. I need to know why we're doing that. And then my last name. Besides the fact that her dad left and he was kind of trifling. But they kind of try to make him seem like he was a good guy. They cut to him and he was looking real sad. And they cut away and they cut back. It was a tear rolling down. Just one tear. One tear. And I know somebody would just put it right there. And then they said, here, cut back real quick. And I was like, this is not right, y'all. Y'all ain't right for this. It was really...
Y'all, so the movie had really, really great context. It was definitely layered. Of course, those questions that needed answers.
Don't make me watch another one.
Oh, my goodness. But also, like we said, we've plugged our baby boy video. We've plugged our self-sabotage video. We plugged things that therapists should not do. Remember that video? Jay and Fox video. Watch that one. Anxiety. We plugged that one as well. So we have a list of our other videos that you guys should also watch. As always, like, comment, subscribe, watch the video, watch the movie as well, and tell us some of the things that you caught. Maybe some of the other Tubi-ish things that we
there's more
that we didn't see.
I held back. There's more. Let me just add before we go that, of course, this is only like a tiny sliver of what everything is that comes with having mental health issues and schizophrenia specifically. So like, take what you need, leave the rest, but also do your own research.
Yeah.
Right? Our information is sound, but it's not comprehensive. So again, get all of the information you need.
Yeah.
Not just this. This is not a substitute for a beautiful relationship with a mental health therapist or psychiatrist. Okay?
Yes.
Just a reminder of that.
Yes.
But we love you. Stay mentally dope.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.